Okay. Happy to be here. So I'm not really going to demonstrate reflective surfaces because I did that the last time I did a demo and I didn't want to do that again. I will, however, go over some masking techniques because I feel like I've mastered it. Awesome. I am not afraid of masking fluid. Bring it on. Like, ask me any question about masking fluid and I'll have an answer because I feel like I got this.
What color do you like?
That's not the point. But they do come in colors. They do come in colors. So I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm not going to play with the zoom because I know that messes with the recording. So this is just a printout that I made at home with some of the masking, different kinds of masking fluid and some of the tools that you can use.
Does your mic need to be on?
Oh yeah, I had it in my pocket. I had it ready to go. It's not for the recording necessarily, but.
Oh, okay. I'm just being Tanya.
Now maybe I don't have to speak as loud. Is that all right? Everybody can hear me? Okay, so I made this printout because I started, my very first masking fluid was this PeBeo, the blue one. And I didn't have a great experience with it. And that was just probably me because I was new and following instructions and somebody said to use soap on your brush before you go into your masking fluid. And the one time I did that, it ended up like cement on my paper and didn't come off anymore. I did still use up the rest of this without soap and it behaved properly. So I don't know why, there are people out there telling you to put soap. I think it is because whatever brush you're using can get really gummed up by the masking fluid. So I have something super inexpensive that, this is just a number 02 round that I have dipped in masking fluid so many times that now it's a rubberized tool.
Yeah.
Okay, you can spend money on those rubberized tools or you can make your own. Now, if I really wanted to clean this up, it would never be a watercolor brush again. But if I really wanted to get all of that masking stuff off, one way is just to use your remover and to really clean it this way. But that won't get between the brush. The stuff you have probably underneath your kitchen sink, Goo Gone, you can start rubbing that in there and the masking fluid will come out and you'll have a brush that you can wash with soap and water and almost get back to, this is just a nylon or a synthetic brush. But you can get it back if you want to. I'm happy leaving this one as my gummed up tool to keep using this way for my masking fluid. But there are so many different tools that I have come to favor over the one that you can buy in the store, that rubberized tool. I think I bought a set of those at Hobby Lobby and the art store sells them. But for me, they just don't move the masking around the way I want it to. So I've tried all of these brands and I even have a new one today. And I will say Incredible White Mask is incredible. It's one of my favorite. It does go on, it looks white in the bottle, but it dries somewhat clear. I can still see it, but if you struggle seeing your masking fluid and you want to know where it is, maybe that's not the one because it really doesn't have color. This Richeson medium is pink. And it's a light pink. And that one, so in the bottle, and I can show you all my bottles if you're interested. So the Incredible White Mask. This is liquid mask. This one just removes so easily. If you have a lot that you're masking, this one, you can start it and you can just kind of keep pulling and it just all comes off. This one's it's kind of magic, the way this one removes. It seems to dry out faster in the bottle than this one does. So shelf life may be a little shorter, and I like to put my masking fluid into one of these fine line applicators. Now this comes in 2 sizes. You can get these with a yellow tip or the blue one. The blue one is more fine and the yellow one is medium for size. So I have filled this one with the incredible white masking. You can, and I have previously filled it with this one that is a little bit pink. I would say the difference is when it's in this smaller bottle, the pink type wanted to dry out faster in here. So a lot of people have had issues with this bottle because it clogs. It comes with, if some of you have never seen this before, a little pin in the tip. And that pin is like threading a needle. And I actually stick my finger on the top to feel where it goes rather than trying to find it with my eyes, because that's harder and harder for me. So this entire top comes off to fill it, obviously, but it also comes apart for cleaning. So the pin comes out, and maybe some of you don't know how much you can undo this, but this comes off, and then this little piece comes off. So you can get in here with that goo gone if it got all clogged up. And you can clean that out and use the little pin to clear that out and put her all back together, and you're good to go again. Now, I've had it where it dried up in the bottle. I've thrown away the bottle because if it dries up in here, yeah, there's no getting that back out. So that's done. But you can buy these bottles empty, or you can buy them filled. And when they're filled, I don't think it is this. I think it's another product. But I like to fill it myself. I know what's in it. And if I notice it's getting thicker, I'll put a couple drops of water in it, and I will shake it, even though I will tell you, don't shake your masking fluid. Don't shake your masking fluid because it causes bubbles. And if you're about to apply it, you don't want bubbles. It'll mess up everything you're trying to do. But if you're just trying to thin it, you can shake it and then leave it so that those bubbles go away, and then use it in the future. So a little bit of water is okay. This is my new one. Holbein makes this one. And I just bought it because I wanted to try another one, because I haven't figured out all of them. So this is WindsorNewton does this masking fluid, and you have to be careful when you're buying that one because they also sell one that says permanent on the bottle. Permanent masking fluid. For what purpose, I have no idea. But I've had students who bought that by accident and then wonder why it's not coming off their paper, because it is permanent. So read the bottle before you purchase it would be the lesson on the WindsorNewton one. So I can just show you some other tools. Let's see. So a couple things. When I am masking something, and I did a little bit with that blue before you all arrived. When I am masking something, I don't work out of an open bottle with the top off because it's drying out. So I've collected, this is a Gatorade bottle top. So whatever you have that you can pour just a little bit into, and then put your cap back on your masking fluid so it's not drying out while you're working on it. You can always toss whatever dries up in here, you take it out and throw it away later. But you're not wasting your whole bottle of masking fluid that way. So having a little container, something, anything, to put it on instead of working out of an open bottle. So I showed you my rubberized tool made by myself. There's also something, gosh, what do they call this? Pen liner. It's made for ink, I think.
Yeah.
And it works really well. So I'm going to break my rule and keep the top open for a second. So I actually wanted to use this blue one tonight because I thought it would show up better under the camera than trying to use my invisible one for you. So this, even though it's meant for ink, it does hold, and maybe you can see that, and it makes nice lines.
It does show up nicely.
Yeah, the blue.
Mm.
Yeah. And it goes quite a long way with that. And then obviously, because it's metal, it's going to be really easy to clean this. The rubberized stuff will just pull right off when it dries out. So that's kind of a good little trick to use.
Was the point to get a double line with that?
Well, I did it twice.
No.
It was one line. It made one single line.
But can you change?
Yeah, you can change how thick it is, but if you go too wide, then it's not going to hold the masking fluid in between. It does fine lines. So this is now the lighter colored masking fluid, but to tell you kind of how I use this fine line applicator, I do not hold it this way, because it'll start dripping out. If your masking fluid is still moving, as it should, it'll just drip out with gravity. So I do tend to hold the bottle at a very flat angle. And I don't know if you can see the white. Can you see the white on the paper? Not at all. I should have filled this with blue. So I can do very fine lines with this, and I can even fill a space with this fine line applicator. So let me move on to the blue again because it shows up better for you. So I told you about the cleaning of this, tools. Some people like to use a stylus to move their masking fluid around, and it does. You can draw with it, but I feel like it doesn't go as far as I could go with these other tools. These are better for line making. The other tool I use is the back of your paintbrush. If you have one of these chiseled edges, and obviously if the brush is bigger, then the back end of that is bigger. So this will fill a nice big area very fast, just using the back side of that. And it keeps it pretty thin. It's easy to cover a big area. I've made like cat whiskers and stuff, if you just do a pretty quick movement with the back of the brush. And so I was using the back of the brush when I did these marks that were at the top, and I just did a few because I wanted them to be dry so I could paint over it and hopefully remove some before the end of the demonstration. What other tool? This is a chopstick that I stuck in my pencil sharpener. So you can also draw with a chopstick. You can use toothpicks. I think that kind of covers it. My least favorite tool is the store-bought one with the rubber tip, but that's me. So you have to find what works for you. And there's options, lots and lots of options. So this is the tool for picking up, if you weren't aware. That's I think they call it a rubber cement pickup. But I can put some color, any color. I didn't have a plan for this. But this could be grasses, for instance. Let's put some green in there since I said it was grass. And you can use this masking in landscapes. I don't use masking if I'm doing a portrait ever on the face. But I do, but I'll use it if, let's say, I have one hanging behind me on the braids or on the jewelry. I might use a little bit of masking fluid to reserve something not in the face on a portrait, but elsewhere. So I'm just throwing some color so I have, I don't know, something to remove later. How about that? But I did bring something to show you kind of a project rather than just talking about masking. And we'll see how much I paint today.
Do you use tape at all? Or
Yeah.
sticky film as a mask?
Yes, but I don't trust it as well as this. So if I'm using that film, if I'm using the film, I almost want to put a bead of this masking on the edge of it so that nothing will run under it, because I've had that film leak on the edges on the sides. So I haven't done a ton of the film, but I have used it, so I would definitely put a bead of this. So it's a big area. So I would use the masking film if I knew I had to protect a really big area, and then I would probably put a bead of this on the edge of it to really seal it. That's what I would do. All right, so we can kind of let that dry and come back to it. And I'm just going to take it off of here because I just remembered my other projects on the other side of this board. So I'm going to kind of go through steps to show you my process of getting to the point of my drawing and stuff. This is a picture that I took with my cell phone at home. So I set up my still life on a poster board in the backyard. And I had the direct sun on it so that I'd have a strong shadow. I find that it's very, very challenging to take a good photograph, to make still life. I enjoy painting still lifes. I think I like to do more of it, but I find it very challenging to take my own photographs to get something I get excited about. So when I have something I think is okay, I generally play around with it in my phone with the editing app, and I crop it, and maybe I play with the colors or whatever, but I do like to look at it, and this is cropped now, in a black and white, and just to see the values and does that work. And often I will use this image when I'm painting so that I'm not locked into the colors that the grapes were when I took the picture. Just decide what color I want to make it based more on values. I also use an app, which is Notanizer, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned that the last time that I did a demo. Notanizer, Notanizer. You can bring an image into that application and look at it with 2 levels, black and white, 3 levels, 4 levels, 5 levels of, so that you can kind of, I feel like this is doing the work for me that a value study would do. Putting it in the app shows me what the values are without me sketching my my image over and over to figure out how I want to do it. I can just plug it into the app and look at it and decide what I want to do. So my next step, if I'm pretty happy with this, is to put it in another application to get it the size of the paper that I want to paint. And then I will trace it. So in this case, I put it into PicStitch, and PicStitch is an application that works on my Mac. And I can drag an image in there, and I can tell it what size I want it, what the dimension is. So I can at least give one side a dimension, 8 inches or 11 inches, and then the other side will figure out where it needs to be based on the one side image. And then I can figure out what size paper I'm going to be painting on, and then I can use, so this is 2 pieces, it prints it out in however many. I've had one that was like 9 or 12 regular printer size paper sheets that I then tape together. So this one is 2. Then I can use this sized image to trace my image onto my watercolor paper. Most often I will use graphite paper and a stylus. Now I have also used a projector. I'm good with that. I just don't have the greatest setup for that at home. I feel like I'm always trying to get closer or farther, and I'm like taping my image to or my paper to a wall, and then a dog comes and moves something. So the projector just has been harder for me and I feel like my system works. It might be a little bit old-fashioned, but it works for me. Printing something out, taping my papers together, and then I have my sizing. Yes, and then I will transfer onto my image onto and then I have that here. So I have a drawing. Then I need to decide if there's anything I would want to reserve white, and I would do my masking at this point. And I did do one other image. I printed one more thing to show you, and that is this. This I put in another app. So I took my image and I brought it into another app. This one's called Waterlogue. And this one has very watery looking. This is like how I don't paint. But I like to see how it would look if someone painted it really loose, and often it changes the colors. I paint much more like a photograph most of the time, but I like to put some looseness in, and this is coming to me like so late in the game, but I'm taking things that I like from this and trying to incorporate it into the artwork that I do. I will not paint it to look exactly like what the app spit out, but I definitely love the colored shadows that this spit out. I think they're super interesting. So I like what it did with the colors, and I'll never be that washy, but there's things I can take from this and then put into my own painting. So I like having something like this. Waterlogue. It's spelt the way you would do in the UK.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, so that one is kind of L-O-G-U-E, I think. Waterlogue. Lagu. Waterlogue. Yeah, so that's kind of the process. Before I even begin painting, I put a lot of thought. I think I'm very thoughtful in the ideas of how I would approach my painting before I even get my drawing on the paper. And then, yeah, so I think I'll probably mask a little bit. I think what I want to mask is the tiny little white areas that are in between some of those grapes and right in there, because I don't want to mask the highlights on the grapes because they're very soft. If anything, if there's salt that I want to, put a little grain of salt on my cracker, my Triscuit, then I can do that. So I really don't need very much of this. I don't know if it's worth pouring in here. But I want to show you that I follow my own rules. And I'm doing it in blue so you can see it, I hope. That's the idea. Does anyone have a question?
Do you find a difference, like in the residue, or you know how between the brands that like do they leave a residue, or is it more? I get a different.
It leaves something behind. So that
Yeah.
PeBeo is the one that left something behind for me. The one I was least excited about is this blue one. I feel like it had stained my paper previously. I don't have any residue with those three. And this Holbein one is new to me, so I'll let you know.
You know how they leave a hard edge that's hard to
Oh.
soften sometimes? Do you see them all kind of reacting
I
the same?
think always you can tell something's been masked unless you go back and soften some edges. And sometimes those hard edges are
Don't soften.
desirable, and sometimes you definitely want to get rid of them. But yeah, let's try to get a little bit on here, tiny bit on here. But residue, like it left something behind, no. The PeBeo one was my least favorite. But, and that was more of a color staining thing. You have to be sure that your paper is super dry, all the way dry when you apply and when you remove your masking. Because even if your paper seems dry, it can be damp on the back side of it, especially if it's taped down. And if it is damp at all, it can rip the paper when you're pulling your masking off. So you want to be sure it's not. And it does, I mean, depending on how steady you are with your hand, this can be hard to keep your edges nice. And I'm just using the back of the paintbrush here. But yeah, it leaves kind of a little bit of a rough edge, and it depends how rough your paper is, how rough the edge of your masking is. The smoother your paper, the less rough the edge is with your masking fluid.
Is there a problem with masking on Yupo?
I have no idea. I don't think there would be.
You wouldn't-
I think the only problem if you're using watercolor is that when you're removing it, it might remove things you don't want right next to it. That would be my guess.
But can't you just wipe Yupo?
Yeah, I mean, you can get your Yupo back to white with a Q-tip and alcohol, or not even rubbing alcohol. So I don't know that you need it, but you could try it. I don't have very much experience with Yupo. I did take a workshop here that had me using Yupo, and it was one of the most frustrating things I've ever done. I did not like it. I felt like I had no control, and I wasn't happy about it.
It was a great workshop.
It was a great workshop, but I had no control over what was happening at all. All right, what am I forgetting there? A little bit right there. All right, what else? I think that's it. Let's put some salt flecks on here, because why not? Some little salt. Okay, I think good enough. All right, so that's masking. So I guess now I've made it all. I should have done that salt because I could have started painting those. I have to dry those. or let them dry. It's a last minute throw the salt idea on there. All right, so I guess the cracker, I could do that. I would keep this one and this one nearby so I can you see that far out? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, kind of keep these for my reference. So crackers, probably a raw sienna.
Do you want to talk us through your palette?
I could. I kind of changed this one up. So this is a newer palette for me. Something I found, it's Holbein makes this. And I found it on Amazon and now it's not on Amazon anymore. But I'm sure it'll show up again. So yeah, I could talk you through my palette. This is a palette I put together because of my workshop tomorrow. So the nice thing about this particular palette is that these wells pop out.
Oh.
And they're movable. So I know, right? For every workshop you've ever gone to and you want to change your palette out.
And they don't have it on.
Well, they had it on Amazon.
Now they don't.
And now they don't. But that's not to say it won't be back. Because it was sold directly from Holbein
Oh.
through Amazon. And it was Holbein USA that had it. And then they didn't. So maybe they're just out of stock and it'll be back.
It stay tight.
Yeah, they stay tight. So, so the mixing area is plastic, so you know it stains, but you can clean that pretty much with your magic eraser.
Yes.
So my colors here, I have alizarin crimson, vermilion hue, scarlet lake, quinacridone red. I didn't list this one because I don't think I'm going to use it in my workshop, but that is transparent orange, which I bought for Ted Nuttall's workshop. And I haven't used it that much, but there it is. This one is either Gamboge or Windsor Yellow Deep. They're kind of the same. Aurelian Yellow, Raw Sienna, Quinacridone Gold. I have quinacridone burnt orange, burnt umber, maroon perline. I picked that one up for Kathleen Giles' workshop, and I do like how dark you can get things with that one. I think it's slightly a dull color, but you can kind of see that here. So then I skipped over this way, Indian Throne. That was one of the ones also Kathleen Giles uses it. Mine is actually the M. Graham version of that, which is anthraquinone. So, but it's the same pigment color. But those two together, the maroon perline and the Indian Throne, make a really nice black. Now, you know, there's so many recipes for black, and I have them all filed away. I know exactly which black I need to make this time. But I thought we might use that one for our workshop on the weekend. Oh, good, I put this on top of the, I can feel it sticking. Oh, good, I can feel it sticking. So then after Indian Throne, I have my French Ultramarine Blue, which I like to abbreviate as FU Blue. My Phthalo Blue Red shade, my Phthalo Blue Green shade, Peacock, which is almost the same, Phthalo Green Blue shade, and Sap Green. That's what I've got in my palette.
What brands?
Oh, all of them. Let's see, Windsor, Holbein, M. Graham, Daniel Smith. You're welcome to look at this after, but they're all over the place, yeah.
If you Google Holbein watercolor palette, removable wells, it
Comes up?
being sold from AliExpress.
Who?
46.
AliExpress out of
Yeah.
China, I think.
Probably.
Ali,
So this, Holbein's Japanese.
$46.63.
That's about what I paid on Amazon.
Yeah, it looks the same, so.
Yeah.
With
So
reusing areas.
I thought, I'm still taking a lot of workshops, and everybody's got their
I love
colors that they give you, and maybe that's just for the project, or maybe that is for, this is my palette. But it's kind of fun to try their colors, and then I'm like stuck with another palette with these stupid colors in the places I didn't want them, or maybe I just didn't like that color. But I thought this was kind of a neat, and it did come with some extra wells. So I have some extra wells at home. There were some double-sized wells, and
There's
anyway.
an off-brand that has big wells.
Ooh, off.
Does it have the cups that fit in and pull out?
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. The only thing is, so I was used to, this is my original original one. And I made this myself and hot glued it on top. But this is the 18 well.
Oh, that one.
And I'm great with this because these are the colors I know and I constantly go back to. And then it comes with this clear plastic insert, and I've hot glued some bead trays in there because when I'm doing skin tones, I like to have my skin tones ready to go there. But so this is my palette, and this is kind of what I'm doing for workshop stuff. And they cross over. Some are the same. Some are the same. But limited, that one is only 18 wells and this one is 24. Anyway, this is probably dry enough to, yeah, this is already dry enough to work with. So I guess I could do like a grape and let's see, time-wise, I can paint a grape. So let's go ahead and just take this one. And I'm just gonna make it wet. And it will be a green grape. And that's me staying in the lines. Not like that. So I don't know if you can see on my drawing, I have some more faint lines on it that show me where my highlight is and kind of a shadow line. So I'll be darker on this side, lighter on that side. But I will start with my Aurelian and just get some nice yellow down and kind of avoid my highlight. If it wants to bleed in there, it can. But wet into wet here. Aurelian's a nice highlighter yellow. This is some of that raw sienna. Might even put a touch of the quinacridone in there just for a little brightness. And it needs green. So on this palette, I have sap and phthalo green. So let's go with sap. I can use both. You're welcome to ask questions if you have any. It is so quiet.
Do you have any tricks? Do you have any techniques to keep the paper from drying?
Well,
Like the magic
Mine
rainbow.
just dries and then I have hard edges.
well, I'm gonna, oh, you mean right in that, like that highlight?
No,
Well,
just
it's
the
all
whole grape.
over.
Because I made the whole grape wet, not just, I didn't go around that highlight.
Mhm.
But the whole grape is still wet.
Yeah,
So
the
would
whole-
you ever use that hairdresser hair
Um,
sprayer to keep it wet?
I might not. If this started to dry too much on me, I would probably let it dry fully and wet the whole grape again to
Oh,
get
okay.
the look that I'm going for here. Yeah, probably would not do that. I feel like it needs either like a sienna or a pink. Maybe we'll use a little bit of that maroon stuff. A little bit of this. Give it some color, a little bit of color. So when you're working wet into wet, I think one of the tricks is to know how wet your paper is and how wet your brush is at the same time. Because otherwise you end up with all the blossoms that you didn't want. If you have the same dampness in your brush as your area that you're working on, then you can still go in and mess around. If it starts to be too dry, and you can kind of tell while you're busy with it. So it's starting to have some shape, guys. From your perspective, is it starting to get some shape? Okay, I feel like that phthalo green was too bright there. But I don't know I can do much about it anymore.
It's looking grapey on the screen.
It looks grapey?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
good, 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 good.
Hate it.
Then, and you know, often this is a first pass, so I can still add to it. If I feel like I need to get darker, I can do that after it's completely dry and wet the grape and then put that in. I think I'll skip down to here just because you want to see a cracker, I'm sure. I'm sure you want to see a Triscuit. I knew I wouldn't be able to complete an entire painting for you, so you're getting to see a grape and a Triscuit, or a partial Triscuit. So let's see. So let's wet the Triscuit just like we did the. We'll go with this partial Triscuit because it's not touching the grape, so it's perfect to jump into that one.
Do you often do wet and wet?
I do. Not always, but I do. I think I started to do it more when I became more confident, because I think in the beginning, I was a color pencilist, and I would use the smallest brushes I could find in the beginning, and I would paint so dry, I may as well have had a color pencil in my hand, because that's what I was comfortable with. So as I gained confidence with water, brush, size, then I could work more wet into wet and really kind of enjoy what happens with the watercolors that way. So. Can you guys see okay? Can you tell it's wet or not even?
Yeah.
Did you put salt on that cracker?
I put some masking fluid to appear to be salt.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, there are a couple of little blue specks,
Okay.
just for fun. All right, so this is again the raw sienna. I think I want to do some of the quinacridone burnt orange. I think I'm probably just gonna live in this land over here. So burnt or raw sienna, quin gold, quinacridone burnt orange, burnt umber, and maroon perline, and maybe some blue to darken some areas. And I really like the coloring that happened here. So I'm trying to get some of the coloring that I enjoyed more from this image than from the picture I took. And I think it's not cheating to put it in an app and get inspired by that.
No.
I don't think it's cheating to trace something either, because you only get so much out of a tracing. You've got to do everything yourself to get the painting right. And if it's a portrait, it sure is nice to have the eyes, nose, and mouth where they belong. Ron, they're coming for you. All right, starting out kind of light. I do want to keep it wet enough. I don't want it to dry on me. Rupali's making me worry now. It's going to dry on me. This is the quin gold. Quinacridone, burnt orange. Tip that. I got a puddle. Remembering that it's going to dry lighter. A lot of this that looks like color is going to kind of do its disappearing act. smaller with a point. I'm one of those people that does change brushes. I know that I've seen a lot of workshops where somebody paints with the same brush the whole entire time. That's not me. So this is still moving quite a bit, and that's okay at this point, but when I get my darkers on, I need this to move less. So this is the burnt umber now. And I might even add, let me add a little French ultramarine blue to that. Or FU blue, as I like to call it. Get it even darker. You can see the palette okay?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see how far that travels. And it might still be moving a bit much for me. I'm trying not to add too much water because I don't want this to keep growing and moving.
That brush has a really nice point. What brush is it?
Silver makes it. It's called Silver Natural Blend Ultra Round. You take a picture of it when I'm done. I do Amazon shop. I buy a lot at the art store because I teach there, but they're carrying less. It's kind of a frustration. The store doesn't have all of the selection that they used to have. So, yeah, I was just on Wednesday, yesterday, somebody was like, oh, I want to go buy one of these palettes. I'm like, yeah, I bought that there, and they don't have it anymore.
Oh, that's a basic.
It's a basic, so that's a frustration.
What art store?
Arizona Art Supply. Here's an art supply on 16th Street in Indian School. They let me teach there in their room, and my students keep them in business. It's really great, actually. It's a win-win for everybody. So this is going to dry out on me, I'm sure of it. Get some more of that dark there. But I am trying not to add too much water when I'm adding color now, so that it doesn't run away from me fully. And just like the grape, this can be the first pass, the undertone, and I can go back to this and add to it later. Starting to look like a Triscuit? Yes? Yeah?
Very interesting.
Thank you. Triscuity. So that's kind of dry down there. It's not moving much. Let's see. See where it's still wet. Are we still wet here? It might be a time to stop. Some hard lines are okay, but I was trying to get that softer look, at least at the beginning. And I have to stop just because that's drying out on me. Does it look like a grinder? A little bit?
Yes.
I'm a thoughtful painter. I am not a quick painter. So I take my time, and I probably make at least 3-4 passes over this bit of cracker before I'm happy with it. And I'm always putting more and more detail into it. So the wet into wet keeps me loose to begin with, and then I'm going back in and, the grapes on here, you can see little dots on it. I don't know, I hadn't planned that far in advance to see if I would do that, but I definitely want a little bottom to it. I feel like the grape needs that. And this is still damp, actually. I made it so nice and wet, it's like bumped over. So, unless you have questions, I feel like demo done. You have a question?
Take off your mask.
Where you did the
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
Yes,
Because that was on the other side here.
the reveal.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Let's reveal. Where's my gummy thing? Too many papers here.
Oh, it's over there by your raffle tickets.
My loser raffle ticket.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. Now, paper should be drier than this, but well, this I did in advance. I just want to see how this lifts, because this is new stuff for me, the blue. This was an experiment. That's pretty sticky. itself to pick up stuff. And then this is, I don't know if you can even see it, the one that
Yeah.
dried clear.
You can see it, it shows up.
This one totally pulls off nicely. My paper was still
What's
wet.
that?
My paper was still wet. The clear one is this incredible white mask. And today I was trying this Holbein one, which I had never bought before. And I know that this pink one pulls off really nicely. It just kind of gets old in the bottle pretty quick, so use it.
Marion, I had that in a bottle for probably 5 years, and as long as I cleaned out my stuff and put that red stopper back in, and it stayed forever.
So the other thing that I think helps to keep something a little longer is I store these upside down. So if a film occurs, it's going to be at the bottom.
The other thing I was going to tell you, in your invisible light, I bought that. It was so highly recommended in Watercolor Artist. I went out and bought it, and I used it on a painting, and I could not lift it off. It was a mess. But, so finally Dick Blue put me in touch with their troubleshooters in
Okay.
New York, and he suggested several things, but he said the problem that I had is I was masking with the vehicle. There wasn't much of the other in it, and he says you're not supposed to shake it, but you really need to roll that one a lot to keep it going, and that's what was wrong, and the vehicle stuck to my paper.
Okay, so so actually it's funny you talk about shaking. So that blue one that I started with, the PeBeo masking, that's a do not shake. That gets so many bubbles, it's crazy. Okay, this one says shake first before using.
I just rotated a lot.
Yeah, so I wouldn't want to create bubbles before using. So yeah, you can roll it to kind of stir it. It may still create some bubbles, but not like shaking. And I do store them upside down so that if a film occurs in the bottle, then when I go to use it, it's not right there. I can still pour some out.
You roll it at all before you use that?
I generally do.
Yeah, because it
Well,
really was hard to mix.
Often I'm planning my artwork even the day ahead when I'm doing my drawing and maybe when I'm printing stuff out. If I already know I'm going to be using masking fluid, I might move them around and then let them sit overnight.
Yeah.
And I guess I need to decide which color I'm going to use nowadays. So this blue one, I think it's going to rip this paper, but we can try because I feel like the paper is still wet.
Marion, have you found that different papers react differently to the...
Yeah, but I think it's still more about how wet is the paper when you're trying to remove it, because I think it'll work on rough and smooth papers.
140 pounds or 200, 300?
No, yeah, so the heavier the weight of the paper, the longer the dry time is for that paper to lose all that moisture. So you just have to be sure it's dry. If your paper is damp, picking this up can pick up the paper. So it'll rip the paper. So make sure that your paper is dry. So that picked up. It's working.
Which brand was that?
This is Holbein.
Looks good. Looks grassy.
What was the idea? I was going for grassy.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying that. That's exactly what I was going for.
So I have to say I like PeBeo.
You do, yeah. Everybody's gonna find what they like. Everyone's gonna find their favorite. The PeBeo stained my paper. The PeBeo cemented onto my paper. So my experience leads me to look elsewhere. But not to say you shouldn't try it, because you should make up your mind for yourself. Everyone should try it themselves. So there, that did remove. It's not too bad. And so Joan was asking about smoothing edges, or there's scrubbers. Let's see, this is a cheap Joe's Fritch scrubber. That's pretty rough. So this alone can tear the paper. So, but you can lift quite a bit, even these staining colors. So getting next to and just trying to smooth out some edges, you can definitely do. Also have one of these Rosemary and Company eradicators. This is a little bitty one, the small size. Sometimes just lengthening, let's say it's grasses or whiskers, can just make it look less like
Clumpy look.
just less like you've used masking. I mean, you did use masking, so. So generally, I'd be putting some color on, but you can shape it first and then add your color. Oh, I missed a piece, I think. So especially down this way, I think it needs, if this is grasses, and if I was gonna turn this into a painting, then I would definitely want to smooth out the bottom edge. But, yeah. Any other questions about masking?
One question.
Yeah.
When you do use masking, obviously it has to take some time to dry before you start your painting. Is there any kind of guidance that you can offer as how long the masking can stay on the paper? Like, would you not want to leave it on there for several days, or? Yeah,
that's tricky. And I'm going to say it's tricky because it depends what time of year it is. You don't want to leave it on for an extended period of time, period. You don't want to have your artwork in a hot car in the summertime, for sure. You don't want to use a hot blow dryer on it if you have masking. It bakes it on. So the temperature outside, you know, if you have it in a controlled environment, generally you could go a week, even 2 weeks. I've gone even longer, and it worked, and it still came off. But then you get into the scary territory where you don't know if it's going to come off. I even did one project where I applied masking 3 different times because the project was taking so long, and I knew I still needed that masked, but I didn't know if my mask was going to turn into cement. So I took it off, I reapplied it, and started again. Just because I've had one artwork where it was cemented on, and it was never, ever, ever coming off of that paper. So I talked to a student who had that. You know, they left it somewhere, it was in storage, whatever, pulled it out, and yes, it's cemented on. Well, I guess you could try putting watercolor ground on top and painting again, or you could, you know, use an acrylic over it. You can cover it, but it was the blue one.
Sometimes if you put the mask over it and then try and take it off again, that will work. And also, ultimately, a razor blade will lift it.
Yeah.
It's not much fun.
Yeah, but it can damage the paper.
It does, but
I had a student once that left it on purpose. She liked it, the blue color.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, but I don't know how this is going to last.
Yeah, so I can tell you, because I kept that one that it was cemented on, and it was the blue, the PeBeo. It doesn't stay the same color over time. It ages and it changes. So don't keep it for the color. Yeah, don't keep it for the color. All right.
Marion?
Yeah.
Is there one of the masking that you feel definitely to stay away from? I've been warned with one brand by different people. And it's none of them that you have there.
Then I haven't tried it, so I can't speak to it.
Daniel Smith's,
I haven't tried it.
but I've had two different.
But I know that the Daniel Smith one comes in an applicator, and some people have like tried to, I think you have to snip the top. It's like it's like their idea of this. And I just don't think that their applicator is a good idea. So if they sold their masking fluid separately and you could put it in a bottle like this, maybe I would try it in the future, but I have never tried it, so I don't know. And then I've seen in workshops, some people have really bright orange, almost neon orange, construction orange, and I think that would be a distraction when I'm painting. So I don't know who makes that brand that has this bright orange color, but I've seen it on other people's paintings.
The Richeson one is really nice, as you said,
It pulls off really nicely. Yeah, yeah, and it looks like the Holbein might do that, and so does the invisible white mask. So I don't know, that was kind of a demo on masking and painting. But Saturday, we're going to have some fun painting reflective surfaces, and that's another image that I had set up in my bathroom and taken a bunch of pictures. So we'll see how far we get on that one on Saturday. If you want to join us, you can still enroll online.
It was pretty detailed. I think.
It is. Are you taking it? Good.